Up more, gang. There's a very interesting David theory going around on Reddit that I want to share with you guys today, because some people seem to think that perhaps the timeline of Celeste Rivas Hernandez's death might line up with David actually performing at Coachella. Some people are wondering if something happened at Coachella. Other people are wondering if something happened right after. And people have been desperately trying to piece together when the actual murder of Celeste Rivas Hernandez took place. Some people want to say there's no proof that there's a murder. The LAPD can't even say that there's a murder. In my opinion, this is an obvious murder. All right, you don't accidentally wind up in the trunk of somebody's Tesla parked a few streets away from their house by accident. But hey, we got to let the LAPD do what they got to do. But I do think that if we can narrow down when this actually happened, when Celeste lost her life, it's going to open up a whole lot of new information as far as actually what was going on. We've poured through David's life, his lifestyle, the timeline, everything that he was up to around this time. And I think this theory is one of the most interesting things that I've seen so far. So let's take a look at it. This has been going around on the D4VD subreddit just a day ago, okay? People are saying, did something happen at Coachella or right after? The timeline might support this. So this is April the 20th, 4/20. 2025, David is performing his second day at Coachella, okay? And people are saying pay attention to the dates. And obviously, we'd already been told that, it might have been, I believe, in the spring of 2025 when Celeste might have lost her life. That's information apparently coming from TMZ and the LAPD. We don't, we'll see how accurate that ends up being in the long run. But these dates are very interesting, okay? This is where the theory starts picking up water, I'm not going to lie. This is the same date, 4/20/2025, and the Celeste H0907 Instagram page liked this image, okay? They're saying that this is the last thing that account liked. This might be the last piece of the digital footprint that's left of Celeste while she was still alive. And then now we're seeing David with a cross stamped on his hand on the release day of his new album, which is the 25th of April, 2025. This is from the David's Closet account. On the 26th of April, 2025, this is when David is crying. He bursts into tears during a performance of Afterlife. Now, if you've seen this footage, I don't want to play it to you just because of the copyright and it's one of his songs that's being performed. But he is singing this song. It's an acoustic version of one of his songs, and he literally bursts into tears and he can't finish the song. Now, it makes you wonder, okay, this is somebody that's been pretty good at not showing their emotions for quite some time. But maybe this is around when it happened. Maybe this is a few days after the murder took place. We've never seen David like this. He literally breaks down in tears on stage. It is actually very bizarre and quite chilling. And he cries in another performance at his album release in Houston. This is on the 28th of April, 2025. People saying this moment of David starting to cry when performing Afterlife during his album release show gave me chills. It's giving people chills for a different reason now. And now people are saying that David typed decay repeatedly in a Discord chat on the 29th of April. This one's actually chilling. He's on there talking about decay, and a body was found in his Tesla. Are you kidding me? All right? Are you freaking kidding me? And then on May the 14th, and a lot of people have said maybe it was May, the Tesla is spotted on Bluebird Ave for the first time. Okay, this is where it is. This is the car. This is where the body was. We don't know if it was in the car at this exact time. It could well have been. I don't want to belittle, I say it. I more just mean the body in terms of it being evidence. This is a real person. Rest in peace to Celeste. I don't mean to belittle her existence at all. But as far as this image being evidence, this could be evidence of a crime. And that is where the remains of this child, this minor who was 14 at the time of their passing, was found in this car. Okay, so this is very creepy, all right? People are saying there's a reason he fell on his face in front of everybody. There was actually, I don't know if you've seen this image, okay, or this video. It's basically David trying to do a backflip on stage. He tries to do a little kick flip. He tries to kick off of something and jump on stage and flip around. But basically, people are saying, this is a crazy comment. People are saying at this point, I believe it was her spirit doing playful things to poke at him. It's something that young spirits do, especially in Mexican culture, ego hit. That's actually crazy. She's Salvadorian, so yeah. I don't know about that one. But it is basically saying that was a failed backflip. Now, people are saying, I wasn't going to speak on this, but since you brought it up, I guess I'll talk about it. I was actually supposed to do a marketing campaign for David in April through Interscope. I was in contact with them a couple of weeks or so before Coachella. I'd put the proposal together for them and submitted the quote a week before Coachella. Long story short, he performed at Coachella. He botched the backflip attempt and it went viral. I didn't hear back from them a couple of weeks after Coachella, and they decided to switch the campaign to a different artist at the last minute. I'm not sure if the label knew something was going on with him at the time or noticed something with him that made them decide to pull back on the campaign, but I felt that there may be a connection ever since the story first broke. From the beginning, I felt like Celeste was probably killed around late February or early April because in my experience with his label on his campaign at that time. Now, side note, I've said it in a previous video, but I personally feel like the arrest, in my opinion, is going to come on Valentine's Day in February of this year. I feel like there's something about this Valentine's Day. She went missing on Valentine's Day 2024. Or if they're saying that the murder happened between February and early April, I know that the cops are very... They like to play with people. I'm not going to lie. They like the theatrics. It is what it is. The cops, the FBI, everybody. They like the theatrics. And if there's a murder date, maybe it's March, maybe it's April, but it wouldn't surprise me if the cops said, you know what, let's arrest him on the 1-year anniversary of the murder. I would not be surprised one bit. And who knows, that could end up being Valentine's Day. But anyway, as this guy says, from the beginning, I felt Celeste was possibly killed around late February or early April because of my experience with his label on the campaign at that time. Josh Marshall was also a person of contact for me, but we never actually interacted with each other in person or online. The main person I was in contact with at Interscope is now working at a different label. To be clear, I'm not accusing anybody at Interscope of knowing anything about the situation because I don't know that for a fact and don't have any evidence of it. However, it did seem off to me at the time, even when they decided to switch it. I don't have any inside information on the situation, it's just a simple observation. It could be as simple as them noticing he was going through some personal issues at the time and they decided to pull back on it, or maybe they just decided to switch to the other artist for business reasons. But I've always had a hunch that the murder happened right around that time. I also live a little over a mile from where Celeste was parked in the Tesla, and just a few miles from the tow yard she was found in and the Fonda Theatre. In addition to that, we also used to have an advertising location just mere steps from the place that David allegedly rented for Celeste. Needless to say, all of this hit home for me. I do hope she gets justice, but I can't say that I'm confident in LA law enforcement and the justice system because it's extremely corrupt. That's a very interesting comment. There's some really good comments on this thread. People saying, it really only takes one person to point out and notice that Celeste is a child. This could have been something where hiding that wasn't going as planned for David, aka P3DO. Could happen anywhere. Coachella, if I had to speculate, has so many adults around that this would not go unnoticed, considering how open he was bringing her everywhere. Sure, his trash family and close friends were complacent and colluded with him, but there's always outsiders. Aside from his weeb fantasy anime concept, he definitely thought nothing of it somehow, which goes to show his ego thinks he's above getting caught. On a side note, his label honestly is doing something to somewhat suppress the media on this situation, but they can't suppress me, baby. That's why I'm doing what I do, okay? Everybody that says, well, you shouldn't speak about this. Ain't no one going to stop me speaking on this shit. And David would love for me to stop speaking on this, okay? So when you guys get at me and say, oh, you're milking it, oh, another David update, your hourly David updates. Yeah, David ain't feeling these updates, and I'm going to keep pressing David, all right? Fuck him. Anyway, it says, like we heard more about Diddy and baby oil so often that this creep on actual news outlets, how can you be involved with a dead miner and it's low-key crickets from mainstream media outside of TMZ and Big Me, all right? We're keeping Celeste's name alive. Not playing with any, like, bruh. When I get them comments, people are like, oh, stop talking about this, bruh. You go run some defense for David while you're there. It says his people just told their connections to work their magic. That's just them telling on themselves. I'd say his label, attorneys, and his father are working overtime to maintain the money that was made through Interscope. How him being involved in this isn't a breach of contract for anything brand deals signed, he baffles me. The fact games like Fortnite still maintain his content is disgusting behavior from their company. Like we know for a fact that he's a predator, let alone an alleged killer. You think they would pull it. I hope all of the people that will have him lay a settlement and lose all of the blood money he was given for playing around with the concept of her death in those corny videos. People saying I've seen plenty of coverage on this outside of TMZ. They're saying it's like a whisper of coverage outside of this channel and TMZ. It's been hush, hush, hush. I'm not going to lie. I feel like it's been hush, hush, hush on general. Okay. And that's why it's important. You need people like me. Okay. Also, a really significant time lapse with him posting on TikTok was from April the 30th to the 5th of May. Granted, I haven't did this huge deep dive on it, but the dude was constantly posting daily on social media. Also had that same gap posting on Insta from April the 28th to the 5th of May. That's very interesting. The Instagram account that likes a photo in April isn't proven to be Celeste. It's not proven, but anyone can make an account and go back and like old photos. Yeah, I guess so. It says, I just wanted to add that he eventually got a cross tattoo on the same hand. I can't find the photo, but I think it's on his Twitter account. Now, that's interesting when you find it out she had hand tattoos and then suddenly he's getting a cross. What, a cross? What, like the thing that you put on a tombstone? Cross? What, like a church where you have a funeral? Where you bury someone in a graveyard at a church, you know, like a cross, like the blood of, a cross, like the thing Christ was crucified on, like, you know, the thing they put a body on, a cross on your palm, taking the piss. Anyway, it says maybe he thought the body was more safe by keeping her in the car when he was gone, since so many people seemed to come to his home. So when he'd have to go on tour or somewhere, he'd put her in the car where only a selected few could access. People are saying he performed on April the 11th and April the 18th at Coachella. After digging, you're right, it still remains first in the list regardless. 26th of April, literally one day after the album release. This person says, today I thought about many things. What if the police are taking a long time because he did this more than once and they need enough evidence to prove all of it? In my opinion, this was not the first time he killed someone in this way. He acted as if nothing happened. He even continued his tour after the news and performed well. It's a good point. How can someone do that when there's a decomposing body in your own car? There was no sign of empathy or concern at all. He seems like a deeply disturbed person who lacks basic human emotions. I also thought about how he started being exposed to disturbing content at a very young age, things he should not have seen during childhood and adolescence. He was obsessed with blood and violence and consumed this content excessively, almost as a way to numb himself. This likely played a role in damaging him and making him someone capable of committing horrific acts with complete indifference. People saying there was one thing in his Discord server where someone asked if he killed another little girl again. People saying, I have this nagging feeling that the increased activity in this case is coincidentally aligning with the FBI and recent media coverage and focusing on taking down online groups like 764. Yeah, so this is interesting, right? And I did touch on this in a previous video, this 764, I don't even want to say the words, but this 764 cult online predator network. Okay, it says in rare public comments, Korea Department of Justice officials offer chilling warnings about the online network 764. This was December 2025. Who knows? It's possible that there's a 764 RICO coming and they're going to go, you know what? David was part of this. This is what it was all about. He was doing all this same shit. It's all satanic, weird shit. It all adds up. It started in the state that he came from. It says, in striking and chilling terms, several Korea Justice Department officials on Thursday offered dire warnings about the online extremist network 764, whose young followers around the world use popular social media platforms to target, groom, and push vulnerable teens into harming themselves and others. I don't think Stephen King is dark enough to come up with some of the stuff that these kids are coming up with. It's a serious threat, as you can imagine. They're trying to metastasize the evil. They're calling it domestic terrorism, all right? That's what they're saying it is. There was a panel about 764. This is crazy, okay? A rare public appearance for two career prosecutors who the moderator described as the point people on 764 within the National Security Division. And so it says that they basically noticed, they noted that 764 members are trying to push victims to take deadly actions, including taking their own way out and causing a drama at the school. I don't even want to say, I ain't even going to get in. You can go do your research on this and go and watch the other video I did, because it's actually crazy. Okay. But people saying, I have this nagging feeling that this case is something to do with the FBI's coverage on that. It wouldn't surprise me. Okay. People saying it's possible. It crossed my mind that he was at least planning next homicides. Look, I'm just going to keep it very real with you. How the hell did he, I don't even want to get in trouble for what I'm about to say, but it's like, let's just imagine, all right, let's just put out a completely hypothetical scenario that this is just hypothetical scenario, that David actually murdered Celeste and that he was going to get away with it. He was going to get rid of the body. He left it in the car. They were going to chop it up. They were going to go and distribute it all over America in national parks, and they were just going to get away with it. If it felt good, why not do it again? It might not have been the first time. This is just a complete hypothetical, okay? But there's this talk in Discord, people talking about, oh, he's killed a kid again. Okay, there's this this is an absolutely far-fetched hypothetical, but it's like this 764 cult is lining up with some of the stuff that's going on here. Now, look, I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm not tarnishing anyone's name unduly, even though there's a lot of crazy stuff. And some people are definitely of the opinion that David was responsible for this, but it's like, If the FBI dropped an indictment and they said, yo, that's what this was, that the pattern of what's going on with these guys is what's going on in this case, some people might not be surprised, and it's stranger things have happened. Now, as this person said, it crossed my mind he was at least planning next homicides, but wanted to be more professional next time, so he got the burn cage and the chainsaw. Those items could not necessarily be organized for Celeste. It's also possible that the tools were left in the home for someone who should have picked them up and taken the Tesla to a destination to get rid of the body. Maybe that's why Celeste was placed in the front, but the person panicked. People are saying, when was the Santa Barbara trip? It was in spring, which includes April. They're saying David is a ghoul. April the 25th, 2025. The Kids album is finally out. I can't even believe it. Welcome to Withered. Yeah. Because then this strikes me, because why are his fingernails not painted black? Dated 25th of April. A lot of pics late 2025. He doesn't have painted nails, so it probably doesn't mean anything, but it struck me for a moment. Yeah, this guy's a weirdo. I also believe she passed away during this period. Much more than the January one. I think it definitely happened around this time. People saying... yeah, the last photo, it's a screenshot. Someone just looked that address up on YouTube miraculously. It had a video of someone driving around all these streets. The Tesla could be any black Tesla, not necessarily David. She was dead before Coachella, before April the 5th. How do you know? Just here to investigate. If he did anything, it would have been before April. How do we know? Well, look, okay, this is a theory that's going around. I do think it's interesting, okay? At the end of the day, I'm going to keep making videos about this situation. This is a major story. We're trying to get to the bottom of this. And trust me, I feel like you're all going to look back and be like, yo, your coverage of this was like on point. And I think that once this case gets solved, which I think it will get solved, and I think in a few months' time, we're going to have way more answers. There'll probably be an indictment. There'll probably be more investigation that had gone on behind the scenes. I think the FBI are probably involved, just in my opinion. Okay, I think there's definitely indications that some kind of interstate element is at play in this trial, or this case, which will soon to be a trial. And I do think that, like, I think the feds are going to be involved, and I think when the actual indictment drops, I think we're going to, this is just my opinion, I think we're going to get like 100+ page indictment with some of the craziest shit you have ever seen. All right, and that's not me. I'm not excited about that, but I do want to get to the bottom of this. I've been researching this constantly. Let's keep Celeste's name alive. Okay, rest in peace to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Let's keep this case in the public consciousness until there is justice for Celeste. I don't care what anybody has to say. Okay, we're not hushing this down. I'm sure David and Blair Burke would love everyone to shut up. They would love for me to see those comments talking about, oh, you'll milk it on another David video, and for us to all just shut up and all just forget about this and just move on. And just, you know, then maybe in a couple years, couple months, David drops an album and he just pretends like this didn't happen. You bet your ass they would love that. Ain't gonna happen. All right, we're gonna keep talking about it. And if there's some evidence that comes out that completely exonerates David, you know we're going to talk about that too, okay? Because I'm married to the facts. I'm not married to no narratives. I'm not trying to push no agenda. I'm looking at the facts and the information as I see it. I'm calling it as I see it, and I'm completely independent, okay? No connections between... I'm not connected to David's lawyers like some of them people at TMZ. I'm not connected to Interscope. I am completely independent journalist doing my own research. Oh, you just read threads on Reddit? Yeah, well, that's where all the information is. It's on Reddit, okay? What more can I do, all right? I'll read a police report if there is one. I'll read an indictment if there is one. All there is right now is social media, okay? And I'm doing my very best to just keep track of what's at least available on social media. When an indictment drops, you know I will be reading the whole thing, and I'll be breaking it down every single step of the way. So you guys can trust me. But anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next video. I hope you found that update useful, and just let me know if you want me to cover anything else related to this story. If you've got leads, if you've got links, if you've got things you want me to look into, realistically, post them on one of those subreddits, because that's where I'm at, all right? I don't really be checking my DM. My DM's closed because I get too much nonsense in there. But I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching. I'm out of here, guys. Peace.